All right, welcome to the Town Council meeting for December 12th, 2017. The Council on Aging meeting room. We're going to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll take a moment of silence. We reflect on our duties here and also remember all our veterans home and away and first responders. Thank you. We are we're going to be recording the meeting in accordance with national laws and make the announcement that we are taping the meeting. Is anyone else taping the meeting? Public comments. Mr. Collins.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Well,
Bill Collins, Center Square Grill. I think I know most of you. I'm much more happy talking with you guys at my restaurant. So thanks for having.
If you'd like.
What's that?
We can reconvene there if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, I should have brought food here. But I'm here with a group of restaurateurs in town. You know, just to kind of respond to the letter that we received on the 20th. I first talked to Patsy about the letter, and you know, throughout my whole career, I ran restaurants in Northampton. I ran 6 at the height. We had 300 employees. I did all of the licensing for the company, and you know, over the course of my 15-year career with them, there was one increase, and it was 2%. And so when I looked at this letter and I saw that it was an 83% increase over, you know, what we've been used to, I said, wow, you know, that's a big jump. And so once I kind of digested it, Patsy and I talked a little bit. We decided to reach out to some other restaurants. And you know, one of the things that I was really shocked about was that with the subcommittee being formed and knowing a lot of you guys, that we weren't part of the process. You know, we weren't like part of the discussion. And for us, you know, I employ 70 people in town. You know, collectively, we're in the hundreds in restaurants. The climate of the restaurant business today, we're being hit from every angle. You know, I'm not sure if you know about the mandated sick time, but you know, we have to offer every single one of our employees up to 40 hours of paid time off, which is new last year. Over the last 5 years, the state has decided to increase minimum wage $1 a year until it hits $15. So people we were used to paying $9 to, a dishwasher, a hostess, great jobs, jobs that we need to have filled, eventually we're going to be paid $15 an hour for. Our cost of goods sold over this year has grown 13% over the last year. And so we're a group of people here that heavily support town. You know, every baseball team, football team, you know, we do as much as we can to contribute, you know. And I'm not saying that a $1,000 increase is going to stop that stuff. But when you look at it from a percentage, it's a percentage I've never seen from a vendor. It's a percentage, it's just, to me, I was shocked. And so when I really took a deep breath and I looked at minimum wage, I thought to myself, I really like how they did it. They at least gave me the ability to budget over 5 years to grow into that. Because what that means for me, it's $1,700 a week. That's a gigantic expense for me. So every year my business becomes a lot less exciting to run. You know, or you got to figure out how to make it up in sales. And so when I look at something like this with 83%, without having been spoken to and been given a chance to be part of the process, I said, you know what, I think we all need to come. And I would have definitely volunteered to be a part of a subcommittee. I would have volunteered to at least come to a conversation. I know any of these guys behind me would have. And we're asking that we get a chance to propose something that we think makes sense for our businesses. And we would like to see the council take a look at that $2,200 fee, which I'm not saying is an unreasonable amount long-term. But I think if you stepped it up over 5 years and increased $200 a year for 5 years, you know, for a guy like me with 20 bar stools, it's different for a guy with 6 bar stools or 10 bar stools, you know. And so that cost, that $1,000 increase, I was talking with Aldo, you know, Aldo needs to sell 2 extra bottles of wine a night for the entire year in order just to break even on the cost of that increase, you know? And so, having just received a letter saying, hey, this is the new era we're in. By the way, we're also gonna close at 1 a.m. and, you know, the 2 a.m. is closing. That doesn't affect me, but it does affect some people. It was a little bit of a shock. It was a little bit of a shock to not be a part of the process. And so I certainly would like to propose on our behalf that we tier this and that we make that increase over the course of 5 years at $200 a year, hitting that $2,200 number. And maybe take a look at cities like Northampton that function. I mean, 2% over 10 years, nobody there is saying, oh my God, you know, we haven't gone up enough, we've got to get current. It's been 2%, you know? I hope that, that you guys will, you know, take that under advisement from us. We want to continue to be active in our businesses and support the community and, you know, do everything we can to continue to bring people into town. You know, I think unlike Northampton, this town does not have a tremendous shopping draw. It does have some. But this town really has started to have a tremendous restaurant draw. I think we're an important part of the community. And I think that when making decisions that are going to affect our businesses, I know we would all really appreciate the opportunity to participate and to have a conversation. And so, you know, as part 2 of our proposal, I would say that any subcommittee that would be formed that would affect our industry, it would be great if you guys could invite a representative from our business community to be a part of that subcommittee, to talk on our behalf. So that's all I have. I don't know if anybody else is able to speak or.
I have the same issue as Bill. You know, my bar is much smaller, and I feel that $1,000 I would have to sell.
Please, this is being mic'd, so even though we know who you are, identify yourself if you
My name is
could.
Pasquale Quarry from Patsy's Restaurant.
Okay.
Okay, and I feel the same way as I was saying. My bar is much smaller, and I would have to sell a lot of martinis to make up that $1,000. You know, when I went to the town, and every year you go, you expect a little bit of increase. So I asked if there was an increase, and they were skeptical of telling me because they knew it was just too much. So obviously they told me what it was, and I said, wow. And then, you know, and on top of it, this was the first time we needed to put on a deposit, which never happened before. I said, okay, so my application, I have to come back and bring the application with my $1,200. And I was going back to the restaurant to make that check. I said, that's godly insane. $1,000 extra? I said, where am I going to come up with $1,000? So I feel that a 5-year, we increase within the 5 years. I don't mind being at 22, but give us a chance to make up the difference,
To budget for it.
the budget.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Council comments?
I think it's the last meeting, I tend to agree with them. I mean, it's you know, we may not think it's the dollar-wise, it's a tremendous amount, but it is a tremendous increase percentage-wise. And I also sort of agree that it's too bad we didn't have one of them in part of the, you know, as part of the committee, to someone who's been in the business and knows, you know, knows the ins and outs and just the various facets of it and what a change like that or an effect like that would do to them.
Mike? Ken?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Denise, you're up. Town manager. We'll talk to you guys after.
Okay.
You know, at some point.
Watch
out for this guy.
These guys have done good this year.
We'll tell other guys.
I'll tell that.
That's all right. They're getting us cold.
Have a little few prizes here, little gifts for you guys.
As long as it's under $50.
But there's somebody new, right?
There's a new guy
You have a
on
new
the end.
member?
I thought you were getting cold.
We can't do anything with it today because it's a new topic and it's not technically on the agenda. So I said we'll be in touch.
Okay.
And then we'll try and figure out what we're doing.
Should we plan to try and come back for the next meeting?
We're not meeting until January, so.
Right.
I'll be,
That the liquor licenses coming due pretty soon.
yeah.
We would like to know before it, so we
We
can
can't.
have an idea
It's not gonna
of what's
happen.
going on.
Thank you.
The liquor licenses are.
Then we'll work out the.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
Happy holidays.
Have a good night.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's been particularly nice, so you want to give her extra stuff. No cold for her.
She's been really good.
Good, very good, very good.
Wait a minute, Denise, are those bitcoins? Are those bitcoins?
I don't know, look at that.
I'll make sure that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Santa, I'm not trying to one-up you here.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Thank you, Santa.
Thank you, Santa.
Wait till after the holidays?
Thank you.
What time of the day is good for you?
I'll make it work. I have a business partner, so I'll make whatever work.
It's not the same as last year when
Okay.
totally
Figure it out.
Linda.
Thank you.
Great holiday.
Merry Christmas.
Who was it, too?
Yes,
Thank you.
You're in the middle of a very contentious thing and all of a sudden you can see. That was
Look at this, I guess I was a good girl.
Matches your bracelet. You got the silver and gold thing going here.
He's just giving you your money back.
Thanks, Santa.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Santa.
Which they're gonna do anyway.
All right, now, without further ado, Jane,
Okay,
you're
now.
up. Good girl, you're up, good girl.
Good evening. Karen Decker and I have begun negotiating on the, with the town employees, and the firefighters union. All 4 town contracts are up, July 1st of this coming year. So it's gonna be a pretty busy time for us, just getting all of those negotiated, in a timely way. I think we're headed on a good path, though. Sarah and I have reviewed the capital projects requests for 2019, and the requests total $18.9 million, with a large portion of that represented by the school projects. We've begun meeting with the managers and submitted reports, submitted requests, and we'll continue those meetings through January of next year. I'll keep you apprised of the progress that we make on either slimming them down or understanding them better, but I'll keep you well informed. Building department news. If anybody knows Anthony Curto, he's retiring after 20-plus years as the part-time plumbing inspector. We wish him well and thank him for his years of service to the town. He's been a long time stand-up guy for what he did. With the need to fill the plumbing inspection position, we are looking to increase the hours because we are a busy town. This month, when it should be a slow season for building, there were 61 building permits that were issued this month. So it's really not slowing down. And we have some very big projects coming up that require a significant amount of inspection. I don't remember if it's electrical or plumbing, but one of them, if there's a request for an inspection and it's not done within 2 days, that's their timeline. So, we're thinking that now that Buddy will be moving on, that we get somebody that's more in tune with the process of putting stuff into the system, doing all of that themselves. They'll get computers that they're actually making their appointments rather than having the secretary do that. She's got plenty to do with all of the inspecting that's going on. So it'll be a bit of a change, but the amount of money that they're bringing in, although it doesn't offset each other, bringing in quite a bit of money into the general fund, so we're doing the analysis on that. New employees, and I think I mentioned this last time, but thanks for your patience. I really was not feeling well that night. 2 new employees started. Tom Christensen, great guy. He is the Deputy Superintendent of Public Works, and he's still smiling and still coming back, so I guess maybe he's okay. He is from East Long Meadow originally, I guess the whole family. Oh, was he really? So he's very happy to be coming back this way. He hasn't moved yet, so he's commuting back and forth. It's kind of a, long commute for him, but this sort of brings our organization for Public Works to full circle, I think. Joe Dunn was also promoted to the facilities maintainer position, so he's replacing Bruce. So Bruce is smiling a little bit more because he's not doing 3 jobs. The deputy superintendent
I
is.
don't know how Bruce could smile anymore. All he does is smile.
And Joe seems like a great fit for the position. He's really on top of things. He is a good guy. This Monday, we also welcomed Donna Prather as our recreation director. Looking forward to working with her, and this must have been meant to be. She had a house in Indianapolis. She sold it within a week of being told she had the position. She's closing on a house right around the corner from Town Hall. She's looking forward to riding her bike to work when the weather's nicer. She's very happy to be here. There's a reception kind of thing from, what did I say, 9 to 10 on Thursday at the library, and 4:30 to 5:30 here that same day. So both ends of the day, if you'd like to come say hello. I don't know how many of you have seen that we are replacing a water main on the Maple Street area because of the time of year, and Long Meadow was very concerned about. Part of it was on the Long Meadow area that we didn't get it done in time for the bad weather. I think it's GEG is the contractor. They have been amazing, and what they're doing is patching as soon as they're done with the work in the road. And it's really moving fast and well done, and we'll be ready for those 3 medical buildings, Long Meadow, East Long Meadow, that are coming up in the spring. So that's great. Bruce Feeney also provided me, which was a shocker. I've heard a lot of figures, but I did not realize that a storm, and this was not a huge storm, but the storm that we just had this week, the cost for that is $28,000 for mostly salt, but the salt, sand, and the personnel. So just to give you an idea of how much something like that costs, he's a spreadsheet guy, so which I love. So he's got a running tab on how much it's going to be for each storm. He knows right up front what it's going to be. Also, the EPA, I know I mentioned this briefly, and you can read the whole thing, but there are considerable requirements under the new EPA permit process that's going into effect. It's going to require us to review and probably change our operations and maintenance, technical and legal pieces of our sewer and water business. So not great news for sure in the future. Good for the environment, though. That's what they're all about. And if it increases our environmental protection, that's where they're supposed to be, and that's our future. IT, we received $7,500 of a $10,000 grant application for a cyber risk audit. So it's a plus for us to be able to do that and not cost us any money. I will be out of the office some of the time in the coming couple of weeks because I have vacation and personal time to take. Let Tom know if you want to go to the MMA annual meeting and trade show, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you. Same.
All right. Approval of minutes, November 28, 2017, open session minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the open session minutes from November 28, 2017.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded for discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Subcommittees, communication, correspondence, and announcements, we have none. Subcommittees, we have Todd, you're up.
As I mentioned last meeting, we're going to have our next meeting in January, but in the interim, there's always opportunities to learn. So this afternoon, I was tipped off to this by Denise. There was a webinar by opengov.com or .org, and they talked about citizen engagement strategies for the digital era. Now, a lot of the stuff they were doing is perhaps for the future. I think the big concern right now, and it was in their, and I gave you guys all a copy of a couple of the screenshots I captured. Best Practice 6, which they talk about the quality and quantity of participation. And I think that's the impetus behind having this committee, of trying to get a more engaged constituents, as well as is trying to make them not only engaged, but make them aware. And they said the challenge that we have and that we can see is lack of participation. I mean, as much as we would like to have the chairs in front of us, more people coming in, just not so much for their own issues as much as just to find out what we're doing going on. I am encouraged, as I mentioned in the last meeting, a lot of people are watching on television, but I think some of these bullet points were already onto it by trying to reach out to community organizations and more, in our case, influencers. So some good stuff, hopefully, in the future, and without any further ado, I will turn over my time on the floor to the president again.
Thanks, Todd. Kathy, you're up now.
The licensing subcommittee has not met since our last meeting, the last council meeting 2 weeks ago. But we do later in the agenda, we'll have our first hearing on the proposed bylaw that speaks to entities that have a license being in compliance with all necessary town codes. So that's to come.
I have a quick question. So, taking into consideration what we heard tonight, if for some reason we wanted to phase in, I mean, is it too late? Can we make that adjustment at this point? I mean, where do we stand with that? Because I know the licensing
We could
fees are coming
adjust it because the only requirement was for them to pay the $1,200
Right.
initially, and then we actually extended from April, we extended to June 30th or July 1st, which however you want to look at it, for that additional money, which was originally April. So, I mean, it's not like we can't reconsider it at some point if that's.
Yeah.
I actually told them
we
that
knew
one.
there had to be a market correction, right? And I think that it sounds ugly that, it's such a huge increase, but we all talked about it. You looked at the information of the surrounding towns. We hadn't raised the fees since 1989. We were grossly undercharging for that. But having said that, we're not insensitive to the plight of small businesses and how it affects them. So I'd be willing to open the conversation again if you guys want to. That's up to you. I mean, I guess it's whatever
Put it on
the group
for,
wants.
We can put it on the
January
agenda for the
meeting.
January meeting.
I
It's fine.
would, I think it would be more prudent for the subcommittee after the holidays to come back together, because, as you just said, those numbers were not arrived at capriciously. Marge in Denise's office took a great deal of time to poll 16 communities to make sure, and we used those numbers to find a median. We're not, we didn't go to the highest rate, and we certainly didn't go to the lowest, because in 3 of the categories, we already were the lowest. So I have no problem with bringing it back to the subcommittee for some additional discussion. But as Kevin just said, the only piece that any of these folks have to pay by December 31st is the old rate. And that for the difference, they have up till July 1st to pay it. So we're trying to be as business-friendly as possible, but we're also trying to get ourselves in line with area communities and the practices that they use. And yes, I suppose we could tier it over 5 years, but I guarantee you in 5 years, we'll be well behind the 8 ball again.
I think there's a middle ground.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
5, could be 2, could be
Yeah.
3.
We can-
And maybe invite a couple of those people to the subcommittee? Would that be appropriate? Your thoughts?
I don't have an issue either
Well,
way.
the subcommittee,
So why don't we just start with the subcommittee, then we'll.
We'll reconvene after the holidays.
Okay.
Yeah,
are the subcommittees, you have to post them as an open
Yes,
meeting?
Yeah.
So they
yes.
can attend?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, we could just make sure they know what date it is, and we can reach out to them, there's not a lot of them.
Right.
Just make sure they know, and they have the opportunity to attend and voice their opinion like they did tonight.
Mhm.
You know? Can't hurt.
Good.
But then again, I'm not on the subcommittee, so I'll speak for you guys.
I mean, we
Yes.
can listen to
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I don't want to speak for the subcommittee, but I'm on it, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal to sit down and have a discussion about
No, not at all.
it. Anyway,
Oh, appreciate that, thanks, guys.
licensing, oh, no, public hearing. I gotta go out of order, well, public hearing.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, still got a couple minutes.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes, we can knock out a couple of licensing matters.
All right. Do we want to do licensing matters for approval of 2018 license renewals according to Exhibit A? That's the one sort of separation we're going to make on that is when we do the liquor license renewal for Foguera, they only have a temporary certificate from the building inspector till February 28th to complete the required work over at that restaurant. So their license would only be a temporary license until the 28th or completion of whatever work has to be done and a re-inspection by the building inspector.
So, Mr. President, just to, because I didn't hear the first part, of the liquor licensees on our list, one of them has outstanding compliance issues.
Correct.
And it has till February, okay.
So what Kevin did was actually gave them
That's fine.
a temporary certificate to give them some time to finish up whatever matters they have to get finished. So the issuance of the liquor license would be
Contingent upon,
temporary, or, till February 28th, through February 28th, or if prior, if the completion of the work is done, and then reissued for the rest of the year after that.
I would just add that date comes from, I believe, Massachusetts statute, that you have 60 days, so that's where that February
Date
date
came in.
had come from.
Right. So,
and I'll add to that, presuming that there are no extenuating issues with our 6:30 hearing for the bylaw, or again, at our second reading, then
Right.
if the bylaw should be enforced by that time, then the matter really then defaults on February 28th to the conditions of the bylaw.
correct. Right, we're going with as it stands now.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
let's see. So I will entertain a motion to approve all the license renewals for January 1, 2018, as referred to in Exhibit A.
Mr. President, were there any other outstanding?
The only two other businesses that had outstanding issues was Elmcrest, which they can't get into because the building had the fire and then the second fire, so they've got 1 million people in there trying to
Fix it.
work on it, fix it. The state fire marshals are in there, and they're not ready. And Greenwich, I think, is dropping their wine and beer.
Oh,
They decided not to renew.
they rescinded it?
Yeah, they decided not to renew. That was the only two, right, Tom? And then,
So with the
obviously, what we
Elmcrest-
just talked about with Foguera will be temporary for the 28th.
I'm sorry, with the circumstances with the Elmcrest Country Club and all of the mitigation they have to do to come back from 2 fires, what would be the status of their license in the meantime? It's in full force, but obviously they're not
Yeah,
using it.
they're not using it, but
Okay.
it's still,
Okay,
the license technically is in full force, but they can't get in to do the inspection, and the building is basically non-existent, so it's,
right,
you can't give a certificate for the building that doesn't
Right,
exist, but
okay.
they're kind of in limbo, I guess, for lack of a
Understood.
better.
But they would be in compliance on the date and after we vote to approve the new
Correct.
bylaw. They would have to come into compliance with that.
Once their building is
once
back
their
in
building
shape,
is back in
obviously, they'd
shape.
have to come back with the certificate of inspection
Yeah.
for that. But that's the only two real issues with any of the buildings.
If I may ask a question, Pasquale's is obviously for sale and it's closed.
Correct.
So they've got a license.
Oh, that
So
was
I-
another business, they haven't gone in there because it's closed, and they're not in operation, so
Okay.
that was one that's hanging out there, that's our license.
Right.
So-
And it goes back to the town,
Having
Was
read
it-
all of that chapter 38,
which must
in
have.
preparation for that
I think
subcommittee
you're
work,
gonna answer my question before.
I am
So
going to
good.
answer your question. They retain ownership of the license up until, if they sell the business prior to 9 months from the
9
time
months.
they closed it.
Okay,
At the time of 9 months, it reverts back to the town and becomes an open
okay.
license
license.
for
And that's a
whoever wants to
full
apply.
license.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a
full
full.
liquor license, yeah.
Which we don't,
Do we know when they close?
That's what I was gonna ask, yeah.
They're at
'Cause I
least
believe-
3 months
I believe
in,
it becomes what's called a pocket license if they keep
Right.
it longer than their,
right.
Right.
Yeah.
so those are the only,
Okay.
I forgot about the Pasquale's because they're not open, but. So now, I'll entertain a motion to approve the licenses renewals for January 1, 2018 as referred to in Exhibit A with the stipulations of Figueres as a temporary and Elmcrest when they come back with their certificate.
So move.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we can move to our public hearing. First, public hearing. All right, so the reason for the public hearing is to read a new proposed bylaw regarding license compliance into the record for the first time. This bylaw would prohibit or revoke any license to those businesses that are not in compliance with state regulations and town bylaws, as well as owing prior municipal charges. All right, the council members are O'Connor, Federici, Ford, Manley, Anderson, Hill, and Kane. It's a public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the clerk read the legal notice into the record.
The East Long Meadow Town Council will hold a public hearing on December 12, 2017 at 6:30 PM in the meeting room of the Council on Aging located at 328 North Main Street to address a proposal for the Liquor License Authority, LLC, and permit granting authorities of the town to deny or revoke any local license or permit who has neglected to pay any municipal charges and is not in compliance with the state building code, sanitary code, and town bylaws, including all health, fire, and police building codes. Information related to this bylaw is on file with the town clerk and available for review by the public. For the council, Thomas Florence, clerk.
Thanks, Tom. Who's got this one?
I've got this one, it's a long one. This is
Kathy,
like
you're up,
Santa's naughty list.
A lot of politicians and actors.
And there's a lot of people on it this
Yeah,
year, if
no
you're
doubt.
watching the news. The revocation of municipal licensees for violations of local or state laws related to the premise. Definitions. In construing this bylaw, the following words shall mean: A, license or locally insured license. Any license, permit, or written authorization to operate or perform any work or provide any good or service within the town issued by a licensing authority or an employee of or agent thereof. B, licensing authority. Any board, committee, commission, council, department, or employee of the town that issues any license. Any municipal department head that has determined that a premise to which a license has been issued is in violation or noncompliance with any law, bylaw, rule, or regulation enforceable by his department shall, after unsuccessfully taking appropriate actions to bring the premise into compliance, notify the licensing authority of the continuing violations in writing, and in detail set forth the basis for his determination of the existence of the violation. The notice to the licensing authority shall include a request for the renovation, I believe that should say revocation, suspension, or modification of said license, until the licensing authority has held a hearing as hereinafter set forth. It shall not transfer or modify said license unless the department head files a written statement with the licensing authority that the premises has been brought into compliance and withdraws the complaint. B, the licensing authority may suspend modify, or revoke any license, including renewals and transfers of any license that is the subject of department head's complaint, provided that written notice is given to the licensee and the department head that a hearing will be held by the licensing authority. Said notice is mailed to the licensee by certified mail, and the department head shall be notified by hand-delivered letter from the town clerk, indicating the date and location of said hearing at least 14 days before the date of said hearing. The letter shall inform the licensee of the violations to be considered, along with a copy of the department head's complaint, and shall state that he or she has the right to present evidence as to existence of the violations and why the license should not be suspended, modified, or revoked. C, said department head's detailed statement of the existing violation filed with the original complaint shall be prima facie evidence that the violation and shall be sufficient reason, unless rebutted, for the revocation, modification, or suspension of the license. D, any finding made by the licensing authority with respect to a license revocation, modification, or suspension shall be made only for the purpose of such proceeding and shall not be relevant to or introduced in any other proceeding at law, except for an appeal from such revocation, modification, or suspension. E, any license modified, revoked, or suspended under this bylaw shall not be reissued or renewed until the license authority receives a certificate issued by the department head that the party has brought the licensed premises into compliance with the applicable law, bylaw, rule, or regulation as of the date of the certificate. A party shall be given an opportunity to enter into a compliance agreement, thereby allowing the licensing authority to issue certificate setting forth any limitations to the license, and the validity of said license shall be conditioned upon the satisfactory compliance with said agreement. Failure to comply with said agreement shall be grounds for suspension, modification, or revocation of said license, provided, however, the party in breach is given a hearing as set forth in Section 5B, as noted above. Section 6, under invalidation. The invalidation of any section or portion of any section of this bylaw shall not affect the legality or enforceability of the remaining sections or portions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Can I take a quick at it? This is just more in what Councilor Hill said was correct, it's just that what was printed did not match it. I'm talking about definition, section 5A. There's like a little gap between like the fourth line down, non-compliance with. She said any, it's printed and, so if the final draft can reflect the word any, which is, again, I don't think we need to do an amendment, just make the final draft reflect that.
Now we fixed the reading, so that's good. We
All
just
good.
changed the document. All right, so I'm gonna open this for public input. Don't all jump at once. Okay, none. All right. At this time, we'll close this public hearing, so we can discuss it, or we can just take a vote to continue it for the second reading.
I've got one question.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer, but hopefully you guys can enlighten me. I know, like in other cities or towns, like I believe Springfield, if, say for example, I own the building, I have a tenant who's a restaurant, for lack of a better word, I'm the one who's in violation, it will affect the tenant's license. You know, in other words, you can't, there's.
You can't punish a tenant for something the owner didn't do, is that what you're?
Exactly, and I believe in Springfield, I remember hearing something about I think it was something like a barber shop. They wouldn't renew the license because the owner of the building, who wasn't the barber, had many violations, and because of that, they wouldn't renew the license of the tenant until the landlord
Fixed it.
brought everything up to snuff, and I assume it's the same in this case.
Yeah, because we want the building to be in
Right,
compliance.
right. And you can't get around it, just,
Right.
you know,
We
obviously.
can't give it to you just because you're the
You're the
tenant.
tenant, right,
Right.
yeah, exactly, that's a better word, yeah.
The
Okay,
victim,
yeah.
whatever. All right, so, any other comments, questions, anything, discussion? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for a second reading.
So moved?
And we have to specifically identify the date and time, correct?
Yes, which
January
is,
9th?
January 9th.
At 6:30?
yes, January 9th at 6:30.
Does someone second that?
Mike.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
We got 5 minutes, and we want to move right into the other one, or we gotta wait, right?
We have to wait. Take 5 minutes.
5-minute recess?
Yeah, or you can do the victualler's license, you know,
Sure.
the, to do those two licenses.
Yeah.
Get them open.
Get them done. Yeah, so we stop answering those questions, all right.
You hear from AMG, or?
All right, so
All right,
let's do
perfect.
that. Approval of common vic license for AMG Retail. We have it in here somewhere, is it? Go ahead.
Question, any?
You can come up and sit.
Yeah, please come up.
Introduce
over
yourself.
here. Last meeting, we had council here as well. And, could you identify yourself? Give me the mic.
With the branch management group, I'm the
Yeah.
operations department.
Excellent, and just, because this is probably one of the most popular
You are
topics
the
that
most
we
talked
get.
about topic in town.
So I've heard the past several weeks at town hall.
Yes, so our many viewers, do we know what type of gas product is is it gonna be Shell as the pumps
It
indicate?
will be branded Shell. Currently, the dispensers, I do believe, have that branding on them, so what you see is in fact what will be sold, the Shell
So,
brand.
and the type of product, what's the name of the company that's gonna be within the building?
The name on the sign you'll see is Atlantis Fresh Market. That's our brand
Mhm.
of Atlantis Management Group. That's what you'll see eventually.
And give you a free advertising here, what makes you guys so unique and special?
Just that, our fresh market products.
Coffee, you're gonna have breakfast
Yes,
products and
we're
stuff?
gonna have the coffee, the standard things that you would see, just our own branding. The products are in fact unique, if you would. Very similar to, I don't wanna say, but Cumberland Farms. As many of you have noted the building,
How's
I'm
that
sure.
going?
Yeah.
It resembles
Fine.
the Cumberland Farms, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My company purchased that from Ellie Belcher, who actually began construction.
Mhm.
And then we changed some things around, colors and whatnot, to make
Okay.
it our own.
And just assuming that these licenses get passed tonight, what do you think people can start drinking coffee and pumping gas?
Well, hopefully sometime next week. Hopefully.
Wow.
Hopefully. We have currently, I scheduled today with the fire chief, the inspection for the suppression system and the fire alarm system for Thursday. And provided everything goes well with the health department, then hopefully sometime mid-next week to hopefully no later than the end of next week.
And where's the closest of this business model to where this one's located? Is there
This
one?
particular one, as far as I know, there would be none here in Massachusetts.
Okay.
It's kind of a long story, which I think all of you are owed a little explanation why the building was sitting empty for so long. My current company purchased Ellie Belcher during the construction of that. They also purchased my former company, General Equities Food Bag. We operated 51 gas stations throughout 6 states. So that was a very large transaction. It involved also a fuel company. My former company, we handled our own fuel deliveries. We owned multiple other residential properties. So it was a very large transaction. And unfortunately, in the midst of all that, something had to give, and it was 227 Shaker Road, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
So that's the short of it, but that's why it sat empty for so long, unfortunately. So I was asked to take over the project in November 1, when everything became official, and here I am.
Excellent, all right.
Welcome.
Welcome, that's
Welcome
right.
is right.
Thank you. And I would like to state publicly that everyone at the town hall has been extremely cooperative. I have never seen this level of cooperation anywhere. So we're very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
That's
We're
why
happy to hear
Denise-
That's
that.
why she got all those
That's why she got those
gold
gold
coins.
coins.
Of course, he says this before we
She's
vote,
holding
right?
her
Chocolate
Chocolate
gold coins, not real gold coins.
And we are very eager to open so we can
Mine are
serve the
real.
people of this town. Everyone has just been wonderful.
Check, thank you.
Great.
You're gonna have, apparently, by the number of questions that we're getting, you're gonna have a lot of people going there, because there's a lot of people that keep asking about
In the
this.
past 3 weeks, there's been a countless number of people that actually have pulled up to.
And knocked on the door.
What are you guys doing
You
in
know,
there?
While there's some cones moved so we can get in and out. Yes, and people have pulled right up, and I unfortunately have to go out and inform them as they're sliding in their card, no, we're not open.
Go ahead, slide the card in, it's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work, yeah, but, yeah.
Fun to watch though, probably.
A little, but I feel bad
Apparently the
because
cone
they just
didn't
wanna
give it
come
away.
in and do what they have to do,
We'll be
so.
happy to
That's
have
true.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We're happy to be here. Thank you. That's what I'm hearing. I'm not from the area, I'm from Connecticut, but I see the traffic flow, and I think
got a
it's
good
going to do
spot.
well.
You're in a good spot, is right.
It's gonna get better.
So at
I
this
have a
time-
question.
Go ahead,
I was
Mike.
just curious to staffing. Do you have the staffing figured out yet? How
We
many
have the
people?
manager and a night manager.
Uh-huh.
Interviews are being conducted for the additional staff.
Thanks.
Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna make entertain a motion to approve the common victual license for AMG Retail, 227 Shaker Road.
So moved.
Second.
Third and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the flammable storage license for AMG Retail on 227 Shaker Road.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you again very much.
All right, that's easy enough. On to our next public hearing, number 8. So the reason for this public hearing is to read the new proposed bylaw regarding municipal charge liens into the record for the first time. This bylaw would prohibit any businesses from obtaining a license or permit if they owe municipal charges greater than 6 months as compared to the current bylaw of 12 months. Introduce the council members, again, O'Connor, Federici, Ford, Manley, Anderson, Hill, and Kane. At this time, I'm going to open the public meeting. If the clerk could read the notice into the record.
The East Long Meadow Town Council will hold a public hearing on December 12, 2017, at 7 p.m., excuse me, 6:45 p.m. in the media room of the Council on Aging located at 328 North Main Street to address a proposed bylaw amendment to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 57, regarding license and permit denials by changing existing language on overdue municipal charges from 12 months to 6 months. Information relating to this bylaw is on file with the town clerk and available for review by the public. For the council, Thomas Warner, clerk.
Thanks, Tom. You got this one, Mike.
I have it, yeah.
Can you read
Okay.
that, Mike?
Sure. The collector of taxes, also known as the town collector, shall have charge of the keeping of the books, acts involving collections of monies due the town, and the preparation of such returns and reports as it may be required to make. The collector of taxes shall report annually to departments concerned the receipts and collections for each department. A, the collector of taxes, other municipal official responsible for records of all municipal taxes, assessments, betterments, and other municipal charges hereafter referred to as the collector of taxes shall annually furnish to each department, board, commission, or division herein referred as the licensing or permitting authority that issues licenses or permits, including renewals and transfers, a list of any person, corporation, or business enterprise herein referred to as the party that has neglected or refused to pay any local taxes, fees, assessments, betterments, or other municipal charges for not less than 6-month period, as referred in Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 57, adopted by the town on May 4th, 1998, and that such party has not filed in good faith a pending application for an abatement of such tax or a pending petition before the appellate tax board.
All right. So at this time, we'll open it for public input. None, again. All right. That's easy. These are getting easier and easier as we go along. Let's see. So at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Anybody have any questions on it for discussion for us?
I'd just like to let everybody know that I and Kathy met with Dawn
And Sarah?
and Sarah. I had a conversation with Diane as well, and Denise was involved in those conversations. And from an administrative standpoint, 6 months seemed to be the number that worked best for our employees. So that's how that 6-month time frame came about. I know there were earlier discussions of why not 30 days, why not 3 months, but that seemed to be the best solution when committee.
Makes sense.
All right. Anybody else?
Just a general comment. Is this, we're going to have a list of all these different properties. I think it would be, well, I personally would like to see a potential list of any folks that are in violation of. so that, personally, I don't frequent those places.
You're talking business wise, yeah.
Yeah. Be nice to know ahead of time, you know, what businesses might be out of compliance. That's the bottom line.
Fair enough. I'm sure.
Yeah, I believe there's gonna be a safety net mechanism in place. I mean, before somebody goes to Kevin looking for a building permit, such as to put a pool in, you know, the clerk's office will pick up on any unpaid fees, and,
A flag in the system
Right.
Yeah.
that won't allow it.
But as long as
So-
there's some notification of the flag, I mean, unless we have access to the system, we're not gonna see it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that list would, I think it's more if they come in for some kind of license, that they'll be
You
flagged.
automatically can't get it, it'll
Right.
automatically flag that they couldn't get it.
But I think, well, again, personally, I think.
Tom, you can get a list of people, Tom can get a list of the non-compliance.
That way we know.
We can work on that.
There's reports in the news that you can't do
Right.
that.
Right. So other than that, anybody else?
Good.
Yep,
Just a quick moment to acknowledge all the work that you guys have done on this to kind of modernize, you know, these policies and, you know, make it a little easier for us to act when we need to, and for us not to keep, you know, rewarding people that are not in compliance. So I appreciate it. I know it was a lot of work for you guys. Thank you for doing that.
I'm just going to make a motion to continue the public hearing to January 9th at, based on how well this is attended, I'll say 6:35 or 6:40. What's your pleasure?
Should go 6:45.
Go with 6:40, because it gives us 10 minutes to
Just
do
to
the
read
minutes,
it?
just in case, yeah.
Okay.
Plus 10 minutes to read it, which is true.
Yeah, took
All right,
5 minutes to read
6:40.
it.
So that's my motion.
So move, second?
Moved and seconded, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we do these. Old business, we have none. New business, none. Budget update?
I don't really have
We don't have any,
much
right?
of a budget
Yeah.
update, other than we're working on a letter to go to all the department heads that will be requesting to have their budgets in. But any feedback that you all have, any things that you've heard in the past year, any kinds of limitations on anything, please let us know so that we can add that to the letter.
All right. I saw what you did there.
Feedback?
Feedback, and you want to do like that?
Just so having good timing? Magic. All right, so at this point, Jim, do you have anything for us for executive session?
We do.
I know we have contract stuff, but do you have stuff too?
I'm sorry, what was that?
For executive session, do you have stuff for us? Okay. So,
I'll make a motion.
go ahead.
I move that we move into executive session for the purpose of discussing contract matters as well as strategy with respect to pending litigation, and coming back to out of executive session only for the purpose of adjournment.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
O'Connor?
Aye.
Federici?
Yes.
Joe?
Aye.
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 John?
Aye.
Aye.
Kathy? All right.